Hello there, guys, and welcome back to Black Founders Talk by Timmy, an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. I'm your host, Matt Wickham, and today we've got another Matthew on the show, Matthew Dreaper from Chilcomb Management. Matthew, hello, how are you? Thank you for coming on.
Hi, good to see you. Good to see everyone.
Likewise, we had a little bit of a problem before. We're trying a new program to record the video. Didn't quite work. So back to Zoom it is. Okay, so Matthew, so everyone gets to know you a little bit better. I'd like to first ask more personal questions about who you are, your past and stuff. But before we do, tell us in a sentence or two, what is Chilcomb Management?
We're a very niche, we're an accounting practice officially, but really what we do, it's me and a very small network of people. We help a selected group of early stage companies. So we've helped now about 8 or 9 different people from that, where they found their business with finance. That's our core thing, is we provide the finance function. So all the stuff you need to make your business run, but over and above that, good advice, the benefit of the experience I've had over sort of 30 years of working with a big range of different companies, and also access to a network of people who can provide funding, which is obviously a typical, very important part of early stage.
Absolutely. So you're saying that obviously you've got your small network of people which help you run Chilcomb Management as well. Give me a little bit more about how would you describe what you do in a couple of words?
What's at the center of this is a passion for helping people who've got the courage to start a new venture, helping them work out whether they should do it in the first place, because sometimes it's not right, and recognizing that early on is a good thing. And then helping people get set up, particularly focused on helping them be compliant and do all the things they need to do, to keep a sort of legally running company, but much more importantly, helping connect them with all the resources they need, other team members, people to provide funding, support like IT, HR, helping challenge their thinking. So becoming a member of your team, albeit I'm doing it, maybe a day a week here and there rather than every day of the week. So it's about, and I think it's a really important learning in an early stage company is build that team, and everybody's bringing a particular skill, whether it's coding or software, but actually this is a team activity. You're always going to do better as a team, and if you can benefit from each other's experience in the widest possible way, that's a kind of key ingredient for success.
Amazing. We're going to go into this a little bit more later on the show. First of all, are you at the office today?
I'm at the office of one of the companies I work with. So this is why I can only work with a small number of people at once, because it's quite intensive. So a company called Kite Spectrometers. We developed an analytical instrument that's used in all sorts of heavy industries around the world. It was originally developed for a Mars mission. So it was originally developed against.
Wow.
That's where I am today.
Okay. Very nice. Matthew, before we get started going into a little bit more of what you're doing there, so I want to know a little bit more about you. I'm going to give you a series of questions. They're rapid fire questions, yes, no, or one word answers. If you would answer them for me as quickly and as honestly as possible. So, a morning person or a evening person?
Morning, definitely.
Risk taker?
Yeah.
Work-life balance, is it important to you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Do you enjoy networking events?
Like a lot of people, I can find them a bit intimidating, but then you get there, and what's the worst that can happen? So meeting other people, and especially in the kind of startup and tech scene, that's one of the reasons I love it. I think you meet some of the smartest people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. Have you ever pivoted your startup business model?
To my own model, to a modest degree, yes. So, Chilcomb was set up, like a lot of people, I set up Chilcomb because, I didn't have a job at the time. I was working out what to do next, and somebody sort of said, set up a company. And I had an open view at the time. It could develop some new technology itself. I was doing some management consulting with big companies. I was working with startups. Now I just do the startup thing. And I occasionally have business ideas, but none of them have turned into an actual business. So I'm not hard to see.
Very nice. Yet, important word there. Okay, good. Are you more focused on short-term goals or long-term goals?
Long-term.
Do you consider yourself a hands-on leader?
Definitely.
Do you enjoy public speaking?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Nice.
Given the chance to plan for it.
And are you happy with this year's success so far?
This year, yeah, for the people I'm working with, we're seeing growing sales. It's a challenging backdrop. We're dealing with challenges with growth, but I think one of the big things in the startup world is if you've got customers and they want to spend money, those sorts of challenges are better than, oh shit, nobody's interested.
Absolutely. It's not a bad challenge to have, is it? When someone wants to spend money. Absolutely. Okay. So how does your financial experience, how does it contribute to the services provided at Chilcomb Management?
So I think there's two levels to it. One is there's a boring but important level of any company. You've got to file tax returns, you've got to comply with local laws. And then if you start doing things in other countries, it sort of accelerates. So I've been a qualified accountant for about 25 years. I've got a lot of useful experience. I know where I need to get help from other people. So that's one level, just kind of basic compliance. The more valuable level is I did accountancy because I was interested in business, because I wasn't a scientist, not that clever. And I think I've got quite a good range now of experience, both in small companies, but also actually with big companies. A lot of people I work with, we're selling to big companies and understanding how they work is important. So I think I can give the benefit of a different perspective. And actually, because I'm not with one team all day, every day, because I pivot around between a few different teams I work with, I can share that around as well. So that's how, looking at things financially in terms of, well, are we making money? It's kind of quite basic. Always say to the mathematicians I work with, the maths we do as accountants is really basic. It's addition, subtraction, occasional bit of multiplication and division. It really is Mickey Mouse, but helping people just stand back and think about what they're doing, because in any organization, people will get buried in today's problems.
Absolutely.
Somebody else come in. You can give that perspective. I think that's where I help people.
Absolutely. It's that, kind of the angel on the shoulder telling someone to slow down a second and to rethink what they're doing. Have a second to stop for a moment. Tell me, Matthew, you say that about working in the smaller companies and the bigger companies as well. Which size, for example, do you think you can make more difference in a smaller company or a bigger company?
So, well, I mean, my existence and Chilcomb's existence is focused on early stage. So, I mean, we work with people. We say the range of kind of either revenue or inward investment is between £500,000 and 20 million. So, once people get beyond sort of 20 million, they're probably doing stuff in house. We say, well done, we've got you that far. Build a different team now. So, very much focused on small, this podcast is focused on people starting their own business. So that whole issue that there's a couple of you and you're having to run everything, having to deal with customers, investors, and then, deal with IT issues and find out that somebody hasn't cleaned your premises or something. So there's a whole range of skills, in big companies, big organizations, different people do all those different things. The experience I've had working with large corporates is useful, like I say, because the people I work with are generally selling their products and services to large companies. Sometimes we've got people on the team that have got useful experience. Sometimes people haven't. And if they haven't, there's a whole load of weird things that happen that look irrational, but kind of knowing what to expect and knowing what people say in meetings and what it really means. There's just building that level of experience and sort of being able to predict kind of how your customers are going to behave or how a corporate investor is going to behave. I think that's something that's helpful that I bring to the party.
Matthew, when you're going into these new contracts with these new businesses, which are only at the beginning stages of their startup journey, what is the most common difficulty which these startups are facing, which surprises you, which everyone seems to face? Is there kind of a similar one for every company?
Yeah, so I think the early years, getting things off the ground, generally you don't want just one person. Generally a founder wants to bring in a small group of people around him, and just getting the ongoing commitment from that team and pulling yourselves together and uniting behind a view of what you're going to do, that's actually just a big challenge. And the sort of people I work with, what I've seen is that quite often what your idea is at the beginning. It's not that it gets completely changed, but you need to be open to varying it. Maybe it's a slightly different product, maybe it's a slightly different market. Being able to listen and not being so doggedly attached to your idea that you're not flexible. That's a balancing act, because equally, if you don't have the passion, this ain't going to happen. This is so difficult. You're doing it. At the beginning, there's only you, maybe one or two other people, and there's an idea, there's no money. And linked to that, what me and others that do this have seen is people often, they have families, they have partners, they have children, they have people depending on them. And those people can be saying to them, why are you doing this? Go and get a job. And it's a lot less hassle. I've seen a couple of times, and you talk to venture capitalists, this happens quite often. You're doing a funding round and you discover, there's three key people, and one of them suddenly going, oh, actually, I don't think I'm going to do this. Oh my God, we're about to raise money. With a strong, organization that's going to make it. We've got something big here. And then you've got one of the three people going, they don't want to do it. But, so I think doing that self-examination at the beginning and with the people you were working with and having that honesty. And I think all the time I've been doing this, which is kind of about 10 years I've been doing this intensively, the world's developed. I think people generally are better at speaking openly about emotions. I think people are better at listening to each other. So the good news is it's easier probably than it was years ago. And I think, there's more people doing startups. So there's more other people you can talk to get yourself kind of sorted out. But the reality is that, there's a whole load of startups that starts and don't really get past year one or year two, which in itself might not be a problem. There's only a limited number of ideas that are going to work and are going to have both the design and the luck to get all the way through to being a proper business. But one of the things we said, I did a talk with a great friend of mine, Mike Lawson, who founded Oxford Space Systems. He's founded a few other companies, and he's the one that really got me into all of this. We sort of said one way to look at it, what's the worst that can happen? If you kind of make out your plan and you might say, look, I'm willing to work at this for 2 years. I've got enough resources and support that I can work at it for 2 years. I'll give it my best shot. Then it helps people kind of close things off. And it's the same with a business plan, kind of working out what resources you need to do a chunk of work to test some ideas. It then kind of helps people remove all that worry and say, right, we know what we're doing. We've got a plan. Let's go for it. Let's stop all that niggling worry about the big things that matter about, do I really want to do this? Have I got the money to do this? Do my family support me? Am I comfortable doing this? Have I missed another opportunity that I want to work on?
So on that, Matthew, I've got two questions that have come to mind. So you say that a lot of the time, the leaders, the founders of the company, they need to find that balance of not just going forwards with their idea. They have to listen to the others around them to make it work sometimes. How much should the founder balance that idea? How much should he or she be willing to, say, okay, I can drop this, I drop this before it no longer becomes that idea at the beginning? How do you find that balance?
It is very difficult. So I think that there's different types of, there's different levels of factors that might cause you to change your plan. One lower level, there's like, shall we tweak, one particular feature of our product, or shall we actually look at a different market sector, but we're still doing the same product? So those things are probably kind of easier to negotiate, if you like. Whereas saying, look, actually, the only thing we've all got in common is we think we can write software, and we've got three different ideas about what the software is. Well, that's that's a fundamental issue, because you can't, until you work out, you've got to have some broad assumption about your products and the market you're going after to shape an idea, to shape a plan, to bring people on board, to bring investment money in, to bring, to get the course going. So you've got to have some broad parameters. So if it's a fundamental, like, this just isn't working moment, that's obviously a big, and dramatic for the person whose idea it was. That's a dramatic decision that needs, probably a series of chats, and it needs to separate, kind of emotion from reason, so what are good decisions? Well, it's get input from a small number of people who've got really good insight, maybe get some separate insight, What are the facts? What do we know? What don't we know? What might we need to go and find out? Let's talk about it like that. And then as a group, can we make a really good decision? There's always a hazard for a founder because if it's one person that's got the idea, and it normally is one person that originates an idea, they're so wedded to it that they will not let go of it. Well, then it's up to them either to convince the whole world, to convince a team to join them, to convince customers to spend money, to convince investors to invest. Good luck. Or, maybe they're so wedded to the idea they won't be able to make any of that work. So there's what I'd say is anybody working in any sort of group, there's got to be compromise, even if it's just what time do we all have a meeting every morning. Yeah, we've all got to make compromises. Any of us has to decide which, to what extent we're willing to compromise things. If you're not willing to compromise anything very much, there's things you can do on your own, as an activity, maybe that's what you should be doing. But I think if you're going to start a business and actually want to take it forward in any meaningful way, it's a team sport, it's a group activity. And particularly at the early stages, people are taking big risks. You've got to kind of build some sort of team unity and passion behind an idea. And that's going to mean some compromises. And linked to that, being able to have those conversations, we were saying earlier, the world's growing up. People are getting better and better, I think, generally at sharing emotions with each other, listening to each other, and then taking account of those different feelings and views to move forward. Do that, you're going to have something more powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, I can speak for me being British, you're British as well. But in my experience, we used to be very, very closed. I'm not even sure when all this happened. And we are starting to open up, even British people even more. It's not just about the weather,
Yes, about how we in our own modest way. Yes.
Exactly. Tell me a little bit, you said that earlier as well, that you are a risk taker. And you spoke in that previous answer about your friend saying, what's the worst that can happen? It will be 2 years. And then if it doesn't work, then 2 years. Okay. How do you know when enough is enough? When do you call a day? Because at the end of the day, if you work 2 whole years for something and you think, oh, maybe just I need this little bit more. I need this little bit more. How do you know when to stop?
It is very difficult to sort of write a rule, if you like. But I mean, sometimes it is acute as well. The money's run out, or, we've done our 53rd product demo and the thing fell over again and we can't be embarrassed anymore. Or, there's 3 of us and 2 of them are getting grumpy and one of them's just walked out. So I think sometimes, the world kind of gives you that signal. Now, having said that, where I'm sat today, Kai, I can think of, we thought when we set this business up, it might take 2 years to get the technology working, and it actually probably took about double that. And I knew my original co-founders are around with the company, and there was some dark moments there where everybody thought, God, actually, is it just too difficult? And actually, you know what, in that scenario, it was our VC who said, no, I can see how this is going to work. Just keep at it. You're making progress. It's not as bad as you think. We're going to give you some more money. But I suppose there you've got, the world gave you an answer, but when the world, in particular, when the people, so I suppose in that scenario where you've got the world, in particular, the people providing you money, say, go on, that's a signal worth listening to, and it proves the right signal. So I think all along the way, I think smart people try and listen as much as they speak. They try and get input. You can get input from so many people, so you could get very distracted. You could spend all day trying to get views and more opinions. But I think a key ingredient you hear sort of successful founders talk about is finding a group of people, a small group of people that you really know you can rely on for good advice, even if it's not what you want to hear. That group might evolve. It might be different people at the beginning to later on. But having those people around you and being willing to listen and being willing to change your own views, that'll probably get you to the right place. Okay.
Tell me, what advantages does Chilcomb management offer to growing businesses compared to any hiring an in-house finance director? What kind of services are they are you providing which is better than that kind of service?
I think the big thing we bring, a typical startup, what you can do, realistically, you will not be able to hire an in-house finance director in the first few years. There's just no early stage company where it's justified, where it will work, where you can afford it, unless you're going, unless you really accelerate your growth very fast in those years. So at the beginning, you can't, in-house is just not an option. What a lot of people will do is just use a firm of accountants who will make sure you do your accounts and stay compliant, and that's absolutely fine. And a lot of accountants firms will say, "Oh yes, we like to add value, and we dig deeper, and we're with you on the journey." And then you go, "Well, what are you going to do?" You go, "Actually, do you understand what I'm doing?" They're going, "Like, I'm looking after 80 other people that need tax returns and accounts doing, and I might give you occasional bit of experience I saw with somebody similar." When I started doing this 10 years ago, people said, "You're nuts, you can't do it. What's this kind of fractional, portfolio finance director thing?" Now there are more people doing it. So particularly if you're based in a tech cluster like Oxford, London, Cambridge, there are a small number of people like me around where we will make sure you get all the core kind of accounting services, but also actually do what typically people like me, we've been a finance director in a bigger company, and we're used to being part of your management team and giving you that perspective on all sorts of things, on what you're doing with customers, on how we're doing pricing, on how we're handling our shareholders, to how do we do some joint venture deal or some collaboration strategy. That's the value added bit. And that's where, if you can find, typically it's people who've been in-house finance directors, they've maybe decided they don't want to be doing that, working for one lot of people 48 weeks a year forevermore, but they don't want to stop work either. That's typically us. We're typically people, over 40 years old who've got that experience, but are hopefully still, not sort of senile yet. So that's the sort of sweet spot. What those of us that would do it would say is that, we can help with that extra perspective. We help you particularly dealing with investors, and kind of giving that extra sort of layer of sort of professionalism to your team. Because most startups, unless you're doing a kind of particularly financially focused startup, normally, founders are people with other skills, they're marketing, or they're software people, or they're scientists, or they're engineers. We're bringing a different set of skills and experience to the team. Competition, that's really, there isn't. I was going to say there isn't any. That sounds arrogant. I'm at Harwell, which is a big science campus near Oxford, and between Harwell and Oxford and Chilcomb and Milton Park in Oxfordshire, there's a huge number of early stage companies, and we need more people like me around. So I just actually, anybody else I find that's good at this, it's not competition, because if you do this well, people actually want you for a growing amount of time. So I might start in the first year of a company only being with them, I don't know, 10 hours a month on average. With the bigger companies I'm working with, I might be spending, 10, 20 hours a week with them. So I can't work with many startups at the same time, and other people that do the same thing. So I think the small number of us that are doing this, when we meet, we're always happy if we meet others doing it. And it's not really competition, because there's not enough of us. So it's great. It's a nice position to be in, rather than sort of fighting tooth and nail over a market, where there's too many people.
Matthew, tell me that. So when you're when you're deciding to go and collaborate with these companies, these startups, we were saying that at the beginning that we don't know when a company is going to make it, and many companies don't make it within the first year or so. How do you make that decision whether to go with a company or not? So do you see a company and do you think this has got prospects, or do you see a company and think, actually, I really want to help this because I like what they're doing. I'm not sure if it's going to work out, but I'm going to try. How do you approach these situations?
So again, back to what I said just now about actually the structure of the work, and the fact that there are only, so many hours in each day, means that generally I can't work with more people, and other people doing what I do. It's the same thing. If you've got 2 or 3 you're working with, And normally at any one time, at least, say you're working with 4 companies and they're early stage companies, at any one time, one of those will either be doing a fundraising or having some sort of major issue, like a crisis of some sort, because crisis happens in most companies once, twice a year in the early stages of their life, just like a little kid falls over quite a lot, and pick up, start again. So it means actually generally the answer is I can't be working with many more companies, but people come to me and try and persuade me. And I suppose, in the early stages for me doing what I do is, if you like, it's a sort of relatively low risk to help people set something up and work with them and help them get the kind of background stuff done, get a company set up and maybe put them in touch with some sort of investors. It obviously gets bigger stakes if they're starting to try and get somebody like me to lead a funding round and actually become their finance director, come full on and become that bigger member of the team. So personally, like I say, I mean, I'm very clear when I meet lots of people and it's great. People come see me and that's all great. And generally the answer is that, I don't have the time to do this. I'll try and give you a bit of advice in exchange for free lunch and coffee occasionally. And once or twice a year, maybe somebody manages to twist the arm. For instance, the most recent one that I've started working with, they spotted something I occasionally post on LinkedIn, and I was talking about climate change and the environment, reflecting on, I remember learning about it 30 years ago, and they plucked that heartstring and said, we're doing stuff with climate technology, and we know you in a way because we've got some people in common, that we know here at Harwell. So I was persuaded that, it was, spend some time working with them, trying to fit that in.
You said there at the beginning when we were doing the rapid fire questions as well, that work-life balance is important for you. Now, collaborating with other companies as well, you said like 5 hours to one company, maybe 20 hours to another, maybe whatever to another. How do you stop yourself from getting so invested that you're doing more than actually what is required of you? And how do you, you said obviously it's like a child sometimes where there is a crisis and you may have to work extra hours. How do you balance your schedule when you've got 3 or however many different projects that you're working on, and you're trying to give an equal amount of effort and passion towards each one, but different hours? How do you balance that?
Yeah, it certainly sometimes is a challenge. Yeah, in the old days, people like me would have said, well, I'm with you on a Wednesday and the other people on a Thursday, and this, and in between, and I come to the office and I open my emails on my computer and then I'll process them and then leave. The world is not like that now. So in any one day, I will try and schedule, I know where I'm going and who I'm with, but I'm having to have bursts of activity to jump on and, do a bunch of emails or jump on a call that's come up at short notice because somebody else has got an issue. And the people I work with, part of, I guess, selecting who I work with is making sure they understand that from the beginning, and that I have a commitment to trying to make sure I can help everybody with whatever is urgent every day when that's needed, but also recognizing that there's a whole load of tasks that get done at certain times that I schedule them for. So like any group, you get into a rhythm of working with people, you get to know each other. It's quite intense. I think there's a book I read about, there's loads of books about productivity. It's called Productivity Ninja. I thought it was great. And actually one team I worked with, they started giving it to everybody that worked for the company. But the background to that was people feeling they're a slave to their phones or their email. And then this challenges that thinking, and it says, it's back to your question about, are you a morning or afternoon person? So there's a whole, we've got rhythms of our kind of energy and behaviors during the day. Know yourself, know what you do, and then try and control your diary and your schedule so that you do. Yeah, in my case, it's like if I had to write a presentation where I need to really do some good thinking, I'll do that early in the morning. And then other stuff where it's like I can sort of process emails, I can do it sort of with half an eye open because it's routine stuff or like checking some data that I'm quite familiar with. Yeah, there's another time of the day for doing that. So I think I'd strongly advocate any anybody that is having a challenge balancing lots of competing demands, and anybody that's running a young company will have that, because you're having to cover lots of tasks beyond your core competency, like thinking about your own productivity. And it's really important. You will not have complete control of your diary. Nobody, if you want complete control of your diary in your life, you won't get anywhere. There has to be flexibility. But equally, I'm amazed how many people I encounter, and actually it's even more in bigger organizations, who go, where do I go now? What am I being told to do? I never have time to do the things I need to do. And you go, well, like, I've met people who are like on £500,000 a year salaries and massive organizations. You go, I feel completely unempowered. I don't know how to, and it's like, well, control your life, because you can't give your best to people if you don't have some level of control over what you're doing and your diary and what you say yes to and no to. And that, of course, that doesn't always work perfectly. People like me, I have to be aware, that I need to be available to people. I need to know not to be looked too unavailable, if you see what I mean. But there has to be a sort of balancing act there. And I think, again, in general, I think people are getting better at sort of being able to recognize that. And during lockdown, everybody got used to having to sort of schedule time with people because everybody was in different places. I think there's a disbenefit there where people can kind of hide away, and sometimes you think maybe people actually just aren't doing anything, they're just having a nice day off. So there's a balancing act. But the other thing is doing what I do, like anybody, running your own business. Well, if I don't do good stuff for people, they're not going to be willing to pay me, and then I don't earn any money. So at some point, that's probably a problem. So
tell me on that. You mentioned it there, obviously, about lockdown, and obviously now you're in the office today. What is, just two more questions here for you. What is the benefit for you being in the office? What do you feel being the benefit, and why do you choose, obviously, to go into the office and be there personally instead of arranging your time online?
So, first thing is, most of the companies I work with make things, physical products. So they have, even in lockdown, we had to have people coming in to do experiments, to build things for customers, and can't have a chemistry lab or an assembly shop at home. Over and above that, being together in the room, working together, it's, I'm probably going to say nothing new. It's that spontaneous in-passing conversation you have about something because somebody saw you there and it jogged their memory of something they're going to ask you. They won't bother to put it on an email or a WhatsApp or whatever. They will have forgotten about it. They saw you and they ask you that. And then, in some cases, doing what I do is intercepting people who are about to do stupid things that are going to cause trouble. So I would, for me, probably like most people, at 1 or 2 days of the week at home to kind of, reorganize your priorities, to do some intensive work on something that you're creating. That's really good. Because interestingly, I think a lot of research has shown some of the best creativity is actually done by people on their own. It's not done in groups. The group then shapes the product after the initial creation. But working together physically, it is, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be better than people jumping on Teams and Zoom and whatever. I think that's just kind of proven.
And the last question for you here, Matthew, with your years of experience and with your knowledge from working with all these startups for such a long time now, you've got a wealth of knowledge and understanding of how it works and how it's going to work in the future. What would be your most important bit of advice you would give to our listeners who are only just now starting out on their startup journey? What would be your advice for them, which they probably wouldn't know until they've gone through it themselves?
What I see happening is everybody will tell you it's difficult, and you get through one phase, let's say kind of proving your initial product, and then there's just another layer of different difficulty. I think a lot of people at found companies already have this, right, which is a sort of optimistic personality trait and a strength. I think those two things, so an ability to when you have problems, find a way to see opportunities for improvement or to see an opportunity to do something differently.
So
That
optimism.
resilience, optimism, resilience. You need both of those, and then I think there's a third thing, which is recognize what you're really good at. It might be you that leads it all the way through, or it might not. And there's no shame in that. If you get yourself set up rightly, you are the founder. You will have your founder shares. Nobody should take them away unless you behave like a real scumbag. So, whatever happens to your business longer term, if you're a founder, you always will be. You're the person that got it going. Thank you very much. That's quite a unique skill. So recognizing, what your own strengths and needs are, and that those might evolve over the life of the business. Because if it really gets legs, and gets a big organization, it might be different people that are running it in the future. And there's no shame in that. So it's this weird balance of, you've got to be passionate and very possessive about it to get the thing going. But then actually, every year it's becoming more and more of a team sport, and there'll be more and more compromise needed, and it's that balancing act, that judgment. But you get your group of people around you, the group we talked about earlier, the group of kind of wise people that really help you. That should build a confidence that the business gets to the best possible outcome, both for the business and for its founder. So, really admire people that are willing to do it.
Amazing. Matthew, thank you very much for coming on Both Founders Talk today. It's been great to pick your brain and to hear everything that you're doing at Chilcomb Management. And I wish you all the best in the future. Hopefully we'll catch up in the future sometime and see everything developing as it is now. Thank you.